Hi there. Want to take a walk with me? Let's go for a walk. Good to see you. Thought I'd come out today and do a little bit of a different broadcast. Something that's important these days. And I think that all of the issues going on with COVID, that it'd be good to talk about something more hopeful. And the issue that I wanted to address this morning is they're talking about in the news that maybe we've reached the endemic. Maybe we're over the pandemic now. Washington Post was reporting this as early as October of 2021 and saying that, the economy is recovering, children are returning to school, and some of the other things that have been taking place are improvements in air travel, things like that. So a lot more people are traveling. Some of the travel restrictions are lifting, and this is now 2022 here in February. Brought you out to one of my favorite locations here where I like to get away from everything. This is about as close as I can get to getting out in the wilderness these days. And I think it's really healthy, especially with some morning sun, to be able to get that in. Really important for my health, and I know important for a lot of people's health as well. So continuing here in February, I wanted to recognize a couple of people as part of Black History Month. That would be Bell Hooks and Dave Chappelle. Bell Hooks influenced me quite a bit with a lot of her writing about increasing education, having multiple perspectives, bringing lots of conversations to the table, and freedom of speech. And I think that Dave Chappelle made a lot of strides in comedy. I consider him the greatest comic of my generation, certainly. And as controversial as he is, I still really appreciate what he does. And I know that comedy is a really controversial genre to be in, and I think that he's said a lot and has really entertained a lot of people, excuse me, as well as made things very thought-provoking. So going into this topic of, is this the endemic? I certainly hope it is. And I'd like to talk about some of the things that will bring us hope as we go forward into this year, 2022. I'd like to see everybody take their masks off, breathe a little better. I think that would be amazing. Just to be able to see people face to face and say, hey, how are you today? And actually see their face and see their smile. Just think that would be so incredible. One of the things that the COVID pandemic has really taken away from us is this ability to see each other's faces. And I think it's been really tragic, and it's been really harmful that we can't make that kind of a connection, since so much of the way that we're communicating is in our faces. Next, I'd like to see people approaching one another, getting closer than the 6-foot social distancing. I think that would be also very nice to have. And I think that once we're getting a little closer to each other, maybe some of these relations that have been tense over the past 2+ years will get a little better. Sounds like there's a large J up here in the tree talking to me right now. So once we get closer, I think that some of these tensions are going to ease as well. Maybe people can comfort one another a little more once they're able to be in the same vicinity as each other. So I'd like to see our kids go back to school in ways where they don't have as much virtual learning. They get to play, they get to get their energy out, and they get to spend time with their friends. That would be really important as well. It's certainly something that's been missing from a lot of kids' lives, and I think is been really damaging too. So I'm very hopeful that the endemic will be decreasing some of the suffering that our children have had as well. Couples will get space from each other. This could be them returning to work. It could be being able to do more social things, get together with their friends as individuals so that the couple can then get some more space from each other, and that'll kind of reignite some fires, hopefully, that have had the damper put on them from all of the COVID pandemic. And I know I keep saying that, but it's just been such a tremendous impact, and I'm so hopeful that 2022 is going to bring a lot better things, and that it does truly dissipate, and that even into 2023 we'll see a lot better things happening. One of those would be that if you commute to work, or you enjoy that commute, or you like going to your office, you have coworkers that are friendly to you and you like working there and you really love your job, I think that's a good thing. And I think that the workplace is going to be improved as well. Going back to being efficient, productive, and feeling good about work while you're there. I know it feels good to sit in your pajamas and complete work. I'm no exception, as I work from home as well. I just I really enjoy, when I worked in an office setting, I really enjoyed working with my team and getting to see them and have coffee with them, or sit down for some of the meetings that we did have, which were really productive. So I'd be looking forward to that in 2022. Another point about that would be some of the construction that's been going on. I know where I live, it's been going on nonstop, it seems like, because they're never really working on it. They're always kind of just having equipment sit around, and I don't know if COVID is affecting their workforce as well. Maybe some of you could tell me about that. But it's what I like to call the time tax, which I'll cover in another episode. It's a theory that I have called the time tax, which is about how construction takes away from all of our time. And so I'm hoping that in 2022, as COVID starts to wane down, that there'll be less construction. They'll get the construction projects completed, and that'll take away less time from all of the productivity that we could have and free time in our lives when we're stuck in traffic. So next, the service sector. I'm always grateful to people in the service sector. I worked in the service sector for a long time. I still kind of consider myself in the service sector. Public service and public health. It's the greatest customer service job in the world. It's also very emotional. So I certainly appreciate people who work long hours serving the public. Whether it's somebody who's serving concessions or someone who works at the grocery store, I appreciate everything that you've been doing. And I certainly hope that as the pandemic winds down, that more of the service sector jobs will be less affected, and that people can return to those jobs. I know a lot of them have been missing from places like fast food restaurants and restaurants here where I am, because people just don't have the child care, nor do they have the same kinds of benefits that some other folks do. And so, their illnesses are affecting their families in these profound ways. So I'm hoping that will improve as well. Last, I would say, I'd really like to go out and dance. I'd like to see a lot of you dancing with me. I'd really enjoy that. I think it'd be fun. I like to go out about once a month and hit the dance floor and just do some fun things. That kind of helps me get my yayas out, and certainly dissipates a lot of the stress that I have. So I think that would be really nice, just to see some of you on the dance floor. 2022, I want to see bring less fear and bombardment by the media about COVID. It's COVID. And I think that when things are pounded into our head on such a relentless basis like this, it really just desensitizes us. So I'd like to see some of the news return to things that are a little bit more positive. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys in 2022 as I do more of these broadcasts, hopefully more out here in nature with some of these beautiful trees that we have. And as all of this greens up, I'd like to come back out and do another one. I'm going to be calling these episodes social signals. The reason I'm calling them social signals is because I want to talk about social issues. I don't want this just to all be therapy and self-help. I would like to talk about a lot of the things that are impacting us. So if you have something that you feel like is impacting you, feel free to leave it in the comments below. If there's something that you think is affecting our society as a greater whole, or some kind of social theory you'd like me to talk about, I'm always willing to learn those kinds of things. So get in touch with us, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Practically Social.